Welcome. Let's go into a share screen mode and see if this is working right. Yeah, here we go. Okay, everyone can see that? Welcome to session 15. Can you believe it? 15 sessions already? Having lots of fun here. And let's move into our mantra for the evening. This is mantra 13 of the 18 mantras of Isopanishad. Anyad evahu sambhavad. Try that with me. Anyad evahu sambhavad. Anyad ahur asambhavat. Anyad ahur asambhavat. Iti shushruma dhiranam. Iti shushruma dhiranam. Yenastad vichachakshire. Yenastad vichachakshire. So with the melody, it sounds like this. Anyadevahu sambhavad. Anyadevahu sambhavad. Anyadahura sambhavat. Try that. Anyadahura sambhavat. Iti shushrumadhiranam. Iti shushrumadhiranam. Yenastad vichachakshire. Yenastad vichachakshire. Now let's go to the synonyms. Anyat, different. Eva, certainly. Ahu, it is said. Sambhavat, by worshiping the Supreme Lord, the cause of all causes. Anyat, different. Ahu, it is said. Asambhavat, by worshiping what is not the Supreme. Iti, thus. Shushruma, I heard it. Dhiranam, from the undisturbed authorities. Dhira, the word dhira means one who is never shaken or upset or riled by a change of material circumstance. Ye, who, na, unto us, tat, about that subject matter, vichachakshire, perfectly explained. Translation of mantra 13. It is said that one result is obtained by worshiping the supreme cause of all causes, and that another result is obtained by worshiping what is not supreme. All this is heard from the undisturbed authorities who clearly explained it. When I first read this verse, I said to myself, gee, this sounds vaguely like a verse we studied just a few days ago. So I went back, and this is what I found. Look at the parallels here. Mantra 10, Anyadi vahur vidyaya, nyadahura vidyaya, iti shushruma dhiranam, yenastad vichachakshire. And today's verse, Anyadi vahu sambhavad, anyadahura sambhavat, iti shushruma dhiranam, yenastad vichachakshire. I'm thinking, this is, if we didn't know better, someone would say they made a mistake and duplicated a verse. It's so close. Both the Sanskrit and the translation are so close in meaning. And I was trying to figure out why. Why is there such similarity in these two verses? So I went to, I'm going to come out of this screensaver for a moment here. There we go. So I went to some of my close friends and asked them. I said, look, you've had a chance to study Isopanishad even more deeply than I have. I went to 3 scholars, Sanskrit scholars. And the first person I spoke with was Hridayananda Goswami. He's out in San Diego. And he said, here's what his comments were. He said that repetition, first of all, is a common device in great literature. using the same turn of phrase, either for emphasis, to drive something home, to make sure that it's clear. And here in Isopanishad, the repetition is here because it is not poetry for poetry's sake, but intentional. The speaker is encouraging us by this repetition to clear up what the whole world needs to hear. That it's so important, this message is so important that it's worth repeating for the sake of proper understanding. So what is that message? What is the speaker saying? Hridayananda Maharaj suggested that today, like then, thousands of years ago, the circumstances are quite dire. That people posing themselves as teachers, asura, meaning one who has a very poor fund of knowledge, and spurred by avidya, incomplete, partial, temporal understanding of things, or simply wrong understanding of things, are taking over political power. And the empiricists are saying that there is no conscious source to creation. That would be the Mayavada or impersonalist school. Or in current parlance, we might say the physicalist scientific approach to things, which says there is nothing beyond matter. There is no consciousness separate and apart from the interaction of particles and forces. So Hridayananda Maharaj drew a parallel with the prayer of Queen Kunti, who was the mother of the Pandavas and an extraordinary soul and wise woman in the Vedic histories, who prayed to Krishna that people speculate why you have come into this world. And she says, in the future also, people will be talking about you and they're going to want to know what your purpose was in coming here. So there's this level of awareness, even 5,000 years ago, that the future, the residents of the future, the people of Earth in the future are going to need guidance. So the repetition in some measure is to address that need. This was also the background, those of you who may be familiar with the history of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sages assembled at a forest called Naimisha, the Naimisharanya, on the bank of the Ganges River. There was this beautiful forest. Thousands of men and women, old and young, assembled to hear the recitation of this wisdom text because it was known to them that we are on the border of Kali Yuga. We are beginning now a time historically that is like the rotten apple at the bottom of the barrel. Things are going to be really tough for people in the future. And the interest, the concern of this assembly of heartfelt souls was to provide tools for us. They were speaking and assembling there for our benefit, yours and mine today here, speaking on this call. So there was that aspect of this repetition, this divisive repetition that Hridayananda Maharaj underscored. Then I called my friend Steve Rosen, Satyaraj, who is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Vaishnava Studies. And I said, what's your understanding of this clear repetition? It's not a mistake. It's too close for this to have been unintentional. And Satyaraj's response was that it bears repeating because separating truth from illusion is at the very foundation of all spiritual practice. It's the most important thing in life. And it deserves repetition, not just twice, but many, many times, because that ability to discern what is real from what is not real is at the very crux of our well-being. So he said that a parallel can be drawn to the Shikshastaka prayers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who in the early 1500s pioneered the renaissance of bhakti practice, and in particular, the public chanting of the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, Satyaraj said that there is within those prayers as well an indication as to how we can approach real knowledge. And it is with the sense of uttermost humility and a willingness to hear again and again and again until we've understood properly. So I thought that was a wonderful parallel with the verses left by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The third person I spoke with was my godbrother, Ravindra Swarup. Ravindra, who earned his PhD in religion from Temple University in Philadelphia, and who is one of the initiating gurus. We were talking about who are the available gurus for initiation currently, and he is one of them, a wonderful teacher. He said, you're too narrowly focused. He said, look at the verses again, and what you'll find is there's actually two sets here that form a parallel structure. There's verses 10, 11, and 12, and then there's verses 12, 13, and 14. So you have these two sets of verses, and they follow a dialectical structure, meaning thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. In the first set of verses, the subject is knowledge. What is knowledge? What is not knowledge? How to acquire knowledge. In the second set of three verses, the subject is worship. What is supreme and what is not supreme? So he was, if you will, drawing a different framework around how these verses are structured. And he said that the purpose in having this dialectical structure is to refute the Mayavada idea with what we would call transcendental knowledge, or knowledge of Bhakti, the knowledge of the soul and the soul's relationship with the Supreme. So he was analyzing the repetition that we're seeing in this verse as an established method of philosophical argument with the purpose of creating a strong resistance to these two malicious influences, misleading knowledge that may appear to be true, but which actually does not hold up to scrutiny, and different forms of worship, where we place our faith, and in particular, the risk of putting faith into an impersonalist context of the Mayavada understanding. So those were the three people I spoke with about this. What occurred to me is as being, what struck me as being quite unusual, this such an exact parallel in the verses. And as I was hearing my friends give me their different interpretations of that repetition, I realized, of course, repetition is always necessary. It's why, for example, we chant mantras without stop. The repetition is ongoing all the time. We don't just chant mantras once and we're done with it. There's a constant repetition in order for the meaning, the sense, that spiritual energy, if you will, to penetrate deep into our own being and stimulate our own sense of a relationship with what lies beyond matter. So the repetition of mantras is there. Now I want to go back for a moment to something that I found that I think you'll enjoy. This is called Madhurastakam. It is a composition by Sri Vallabhacharya. Vallabhacharya was a contemporary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in India in the 1500s. And in this series of verses, Vallabhacharya describes the sweetness of Lord Krishna. And the word madhuram, meaning sweet or beautiful, is repeated again and again and again. So I'll do my best to sing this for you. I haven't rehearsed it very well, but let's see what I can do. Adaram madhuram vadaram madhuram nayanam madhuram hasitam madhuram radayam madhuram ganaman madhuram madhuradipate rakilam madhuram. His lips are sweet, His cherubic face is sweet. His mesmerizing eyes are sweet. His soulful laugh and smile is sweet. His loving heart is sweet. And his enchanting gait is sweet. Everything about the king of sweetness is sweet. Here's the second verse. Vachanam madhuram charitam madhuram vasanam madhuram valitam madhuram chalitam madhuram bamitam madhuram madhura pipate rakilam madhuram. His words are sweet. His character is sweet. His garments are sweet. His posture is sweet. His movements are sweet. And his roaming is sweet. Everything about the king of sweetness is sweet. So that's just the first two verses of this beautiful, let's see, how many are there? 3, 4, 8. There's 8 verses to this Madhurastakam, and you can look it up. It's really beautiful. I'll do one more. Venur maduro, renur madura, panir madura, pado maduro, vityam maduram, sakyam maduram, maduradi patir kakilam maduram. His flute is sweet. The dust of his lotus feet is sweet. His hands are sweet. His dancing is sweet. And his friendship is sweet. Everything about the king of sweetness is sweet. Isn't that lovely? So again, using that device of repetition as a way of conveying an idea deeply, fully, meaningfully, something that's easily retained or more easily retained than we just heard at one time. So, well, there we go. Now let's yak it up for a while. Any thoughts on this? I hope all of you are chanting your mantras and repeating them again and again and again with great relish. You can see by a show of hands, how many of you chant mantras as a daily practice? No, that's almost everybody there. Good. The secret to success in mantra and japa is whatever you can do without reducing, do that every day. If all you can do is 5 minutes, 1 round on your beads or however you chant, don't push yourself to do an hour of chanting and then the next day you forget altogether about it. Whatever you can do, and then gradually grow that. If for a week you're chanting 1 round on beads or 5 minutes, and the following week you can increase to 6, 7, 10 minutes, whatever you can do comfortably, do that and allow the taste for the chanting of the mantra to grow. And then it won't be a chore. You'll find that in time, you'll find that the chanting becomes something you actually don't want to be without. And it'll be constant. Even when you're doing other things, the mantra will be there in the back of your thoughts, in your mind. It's a lovely companion to have. So Julie says that Shamdas has a record. Oh, lovely. So if you did a search for Shamdas Madhurastakam, you'll find Shamdas chanting this beautiful prayer of Vallabhacharya. Am I in speaker view? Anuradha reminds me. Let's see. Am I? I think so. Yeah. Yep. I'm in speaker view. Okay. Here one says, I'm doing 1 round only, but it's very rewarding. Yes. 1 good round, 1 good mantra is all you need. If you can chant once the names of God with a full heart, you are a jivan mukta. You're liberated. You'll never take your birth again in the material world. So, yeah, sincerity is the key. Doing it not as a mechanical, well, I got to do this now, but recognizing that Krishna and his name are not different. You're inviting God into your home through the sound of that holy name. So keeping that in mind is the most important.
Hello. I was going to add, just with talking about repetition, I also noticed like Bhagavad Gita kind of does the same thing the way it's laid out. Am I incorrect? Like how, I don't know the exact verse, but like the last verse of chapter 9, and then later on it's revisited in the 18th chapter. And I always too just kind of took it as just to really drive the point home and kind of, you know, make it stick, even though I can't think of the exact verse. So I guess it hasn't stuck quite enough yet.
There are only a handful of basic ideas in the Bhagavad Gita, and they're repeated again and again in a variety of ways. Sometimes there too, the Sanskrit is so close that the two verses seem almost identical. It doesn't happen too often, but there are some verses in the Bhagavad Gita where you say, gee, this one I read before, and then you realize, yeah, it's very close to a verse that you read previously. Repetition is necessary for a firm understanding of the subject matter. So it's just being said, same ideas being said in different ways. You are not your body. You're an eternal soul. You can reawaken consciousness of yourself as an eternal soul through the chanting of these divine names. And when that happens, then the soul's ecstasy of love revives. That's basically the idea. You know, everything else is kind of embellishment. Live your life in such a way that it is conducive to that kind of a holy existence. Just icing on the cake. Good point.
And I also enjoyed you mentioning my teacher saying that you had too narrow of a view. His Grace Ravindra Swarup Prabhu saying, yeah, you have too narrow, because I can picture him saying it, and it just made me smile.
Yeah, that kind of loving chiding is part of the Vaishnava tradition. There's no offense in any of that. You know, it's all very heartfelt and it's all very affectionate. Even in the spiritual world, that goes on. You know, there's joking and joshing that goes on between Krishna and his friends and his parents. Thank God there's a sense of humor in the spiritual world. I don't think I'd want to go there if there wasn't a sense of humor. So let's see. We have a comment here in the chat. This kind of touches on discussions from previous sessions. Mantra. So some would say Om Namo Shivaya is the supreme mantra. Others would say Hare Krishna is the Maha Mantra. Just different paths to the same destination? Question mark, question mark. Yes, you can say that. There's the heart has its ways. And I think it's presumptuous to try to dictate to people where they want to place their love. I've never been particularly comfortable with that. There was a time when I was a lad, younger, many years ago, 1723 or whatever, that there was this kind of bias against the appreciation offered for Shiva or for Ganesh or Parvati, Saraswati, Durga, and so on, Hanuman, as though there's only one way of expressing love, you know, and that's it. That's all you got, and everything else is pretty much just prelude to that ultimate realization. And truth be told, there are references in the Bhakti texts to the Krishna mantra as being a very intimate mantra, that the Supreme Being is vested in his names. And if you have these direct names, in other words, if we were to chant, what are some other ways of referencing God? Almighty, source of creation, giver of the fruit of the vine, source of all life. There are these functions that also describe God. They're not quite as personal, intimate, direct as calling God by his name, his personal name. So there are some indications that the Krishna mantra has that advantage. But when someone loves Rama, when someone loves Shiva with a full heart, can we criticize that? I don't think so. I think that's a big mistake. Even from the perspective of the Bhakti texts, Shiva is considered the greatest Vaishnava. He's always meditating on God in his heart. How can you have anything but love for such a divine supreme being? And there's a story of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invited to the home of a South Indian Brahmin for lunch the following day. So Mahaprabhu shows up at this Brahmin's house, but there's no food. There's nothing ready. And Mahaprabhu says, did I get the day wrong? I thought you invited me here for lunch. And the Brahmin was all distracted. He looked very worried and very anxious. And he said, how can you think of food at a time like this? Ravana has kidnapped Mother Sita. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realized that this was a great devotee of Rama who was merged in the anxious ecstasy of thinking of Mother Sita having been kidnapped by the demon king Ravana. And there was no distracting him, no pulling him away from that. And Mahaprabhu embraced him and said, you are the true devotee of Rama. You are the true devotee of Mother Sita. And there's nothing wrong there. I mean, from a philosophical perspective, we can talk about what are the positions of this person or that person in the hierarchy of beings. But ultimately, those are details. If the love is real, it will carry you forward. And by the same token, if someone is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but without sincerity, without conviction, where's the benefit to that? I remember when I was young, just starting out in my Krishna consciousness in Paris, 1970, there was a Franciscan monk who came to visit. There was just a handful of us at that time living in a small apartment in the Latin Quarter. And he came in his robes, and he had seen us on the street and was curious to know more about us. And we just sat down and talked for a while. I swear to you, after a half hour of discussion with this monk, I was in tears. I promise you, I had never been so moved by anyone. And I remember thinking, someday, what a blessing it would be if I could have an ounce of the love of God that this Franciscan monk is displaying. I thought, what a privilege just to meet such a person. Now, he had no visual reference for Vrindavan and the divinities of the Sanskrit text, but his love for God was so clear, it was so palpable, that had brought me to tears. I think that we need that. We need that appreciation for the varieties of love. I've been rereading William James's book, Varieties of Religious Experience. I recommend that to you. Wonderful, wonderful book based on lectures that James gave in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1902, I believe. Wonderful book. We have time for one or two other questions. I'll tell you what, since we have just 1 minute left, why don't we just chant together? We can do that, shall we? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Join me in the Vaishnav Pranam. Vanchakalpa turubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I wish you a very joyful repetition of your mantra, whatever it may be. and a lovely evening as well. Thank you for joining me again. It's always a pleasure to have your company. And I'll hope to see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.